Hello and welcome everybody to our EB-5 webinar. We are going to address the impact of the EB-5 waiting line on Chinese applicants' children as the main focus for today.
大家好，欢迎大家参加我们今天的EB-5网络讲座。我们今天的主题主要是根据中国人 EB-5排期的问题，主要谈一下对小孩子作为附属申请人的影响。
A special thanks to my translator and supervising attorney, Vivian Zhu, who will be providing simultaneous translation today.
今天的讲座有 Wolfsdorf 律师以及我是 Vivian Zhu 律师，为大家主讲。
At the end of this webinar, you will have an opportunity to log on to the chat function and to ask questions. I ask that you please send short questions, try and be as precise as possible so we can give you a quick, accurate answer.
在讲座的最后，大家可以通过屏幕上的聊天室的功能向我们提问，请尽量把问题缩短一些，这样我们可以就是尽量多回答大家的问题。
This webinar is the first of two-part series. We will be doing a second webinar in May. We will notify you in writing. We already have the date. In fact, when you registered for this webinar, you can also register for the second webinar. And that will focus more on the details and the implementation of the current issues regarding the EB-5 waiting line.
本次讲座呢，其实我们是两个部分讲座的第一部分，两个讲座都是关于中国排期的问题。第二个讲座会在下个月，也就是5月的时候进行，但是大家其实注册这一次讲座的时候，同时也可以注册下一个讲座。我们已经定了一个日期，到时候会给大家再发一个通知。
This is some information about our firm. We have over 50 professionals working in the EB-5 arena. That's a picture of the team in the Los Angeles office. So that's the real picture of me. The other one is when I was very young. This is the real picture of the old man, Bernie Wolfsdorf. So again, standard disclaimer. This is not legal advice. If you have legal questions, you are encouraged to call or email us or WeChat us, and we will provide legal answers to your questions.
刚才大家看到的是我们律所的一些简单的介绍，以及我们最近给整个律所的工作人员，一共50多个专业的工作人员，我们拍的一个集体的照片。
So I spent most of the month of March in China, and it appears that there is a lot of concern in the EB-5 community about the waiting line for applicants today.
我们在3月的时候，大部分时间都是在中国参加各种的活动，所以我们了解到，在中国的EB-5业内呢，大家都非常关心这个中国申请人排期的问题。
Some very reliable sources have said that the waiting line could be 6.5 or maybe 7 years. And one very prominent EB-5 lawyer has even said that the EB-5 waiting line for Chinese applicants could be 8 to 10 years.
我们听到很多有经验的业内人士都做出的预期是说，中国人排期会达到6年半，乃至于7年。甚至有一位很有名的EB-5律师还说，可能这个排期会达到8年到10年。
I think those views are too conservative. And when I am asked the question, how long is the EB-5 waiting line for Chinese nationals, my answer is that it is presently 27 months. It is going to get a lot longer in the next year or two. And I am expecting that Congress will do comprehensive immigration reform next year when we have a new president, and the waiting line is definitely going to get longer.
谈到这个问题的时候，我觉得上述的那些律师他们的看法就是排期达到10年这样的看法确实是太保守了，也不一定准确。所以如果大家问到中国人的排期到底会有多久，我们的回答是目前的排期是27个月，但是在今后的1年当中确实会增加到，就是时间还会继续增加，但是我们同时也相信在美国新的总统上台的时候，国会会做出一些移民改革。
When clients push me and say, yes, but if Congress does not do anything and there are no changes, no improvements, what is the maximum waiting time for a newly filed case? Then I will say that it is possibly going to be 4.5 to 5 years.
有的人说，那如果国会到时候完全没有做出任何的改变或者是改革，那如果是现在新递交的那个申请，到底排期最长会达到多久呢？根据我们的预测，排期时间是4年半到5年。
So at the present time, we have a 2.5-year wait line. We expect to see it go to 3 years soon. It will eventually climb to 4 years. Maybe if Congress does not fix it, and then possibly as long as 5 years. I do not see it getting much longer for cases that are filed at this time, presently.
所以总的说来，现在的排期是2年半，然后可能在近期会达到3年甚至4年。如果国会不做出任何改变的话，可能这个排期会达到5年，但是我们认为5年这个已经是应该是最高的，就是最长的时间了，我们不认为会超过5年。
The critical point here is that you have to plan ahead. The key point is, yes, there's a waiting line, and the purpose of this webinar and any advice that I have to give you is that you need to plan ahead to deal with this waiting line.
所以我们这次网络讲座最重要的想跟大家传递的一个信息就是说，如果想要避免排期或者是想要找到解决的办法的话，最好就是要提前计划。
Most of you are very experienced already with EB-5. I think it's worth looking at the current processing times. This is published on the USCIS website, and 526 petitions are taking about 16.5 months. My experience is that this is accurate, but there are some that are taking 18 or 19 months. And the second phase, the 829s, are taking almost 18 months to process. So this is very clear that USCIS has got much slower in processing cases.
熟悉 EB-5 的朋友可能对这个表格应该很熟悉了，这是移民局的EB-5的3个申请的平均审核时间。大家目前看到526的平均审核时间是16.6个月，这个应该就我们的经验来说应该是比较准确的，但是我们确实现在也看到审核时间超过18个月或者19个月的。然后第二个阶段的永久绿卡829申请现在是17.5个月。
As a practical matter, most of you may know the first stage, filing the 526, takes 16, 17 months, and then it takes about another 6 months to get the appointment scheduled in Guangzhou. So at the present time, we're looking at 23, 24 months just for processing, and the Chinese waiting line is 26 to 27 months. So it's really another 2 or 3 months. Most of the applicants who filed in 2014 are not seeing any significant delay beyond the regular processing time.
所以大家看到的是，就是在实践上的有一个要点想跟大家说，就是说，现在526的审核时间已经是16.6个月了，然后我们看到的是，如果你还要在广领馆面签的话，他给你安排面签的时间可能还要再加上6个月，所以就算没有排期的话，等待的时间大概也是23到25个月，所以现在的排期时间是26到27个月。就2014年递交申请的申请人来看，现在的情况其实跟正常等待的时间也差不了很多。
So this is the latest published data on 526 petitions, and it shows almost 22,000 cases pending as of the end of December. I have got unofficial new numbers through the State Department. I did a panel with Charlie Oppenheim at IIUSA last week, and he gave me new information. The new information is that there's actually about 20,000 cases pending, not 22,000 cases pending.
大家现在看到官方的网站上显示的是有21000个，将近22000个申请在审核过程当中，但是上个礼拜 Wolfsdorf 律师和国家签证中心的 Charlie Oppenheim 他们做了一个讲座，当时 Charlie 给我们的新的讯息是说，现在审核当中的申请是2万个，而不是22000个。
So this chart shows the number of 526 petitions that were filed from, it starts off with the second quarter of 2013 and is current all the way up till March 2016. The second quarter of fiscal 2016 ends March 30th, and what you can see is a massive decline in the number of filings between the first quarter of 2016 and the second quarter of 2016. If you look in the right-hand corner, you see 6,277 cases filed in the first quarter, October to December, and then you see the number dropping drastically down to 849 for the last 3 months. So those of you who have not been busy, that's the story with everybody. The market has gone from 6,250 in the first quarter of 2016 down to 850 in the second quarter. Huge decline, and this is based on information provided by IPO chief Nick Colucci just 2 or 3 days ago.
大家这个表格看到的是从2013年第2个季度一直到2016年第2个季度我们递交526数量的一个统计表格。大家可以看到很明显的就是从2016年的第2季度来看，这个数量大幅度的减少了，可能大家也能感觉到整个EB-5行业的一个降温。这个数据呢是昨天的EB-5相关人会议上那个移民局的那个主任Nicholas Cloche 给我们透露的。
Why I'm providing all this detailed statistical information is we're trying to work out what the waiting line is, and obviously it's a numbers game. So these first few slides are all numbers.
为什么我们要给大家看那么多数据呢？因为我们希望从这些数据上来预测现在排期到底会有多久，因为排期的问题基本上就是一个数学题。
In terms of the waiting line, this rapid decline of the number of filings is actually a good thing because it will shorten the waiting line for people who are filing tomorrow.
这个递交数字上的减少呢，对于排期来说其实是一件好事情，因为现在递交的人可能就因为整个526递交数量的减少，而他们以后的排期会大幅度的减少。
Here's more bad news that's actually good news.
下面的也算好消息，也算坏消息。
You will note that the denial rate for 2015 was just over 10%, almost 11%.
大家看到在2015年的526拒签率是差不多11%这个样子。
And also, you'll note that the denial rate for the first 6 months of this year is now up to 23%.
但是到了今年的前4个月，这个拒签率竟然就达到了23%。
So this changes the calculation for the waiting line. If the denial rate was 50%, then obviously the waiting line will be half as long as if it was 100%.
所以这个拒签率也能决定我们排期时间到底有多久。比如说，如果拒签率达到50%的话，那么排期的时间可能就会缩短一半。
So everybody says, well, there's 20,000 cases pending. The multiplier, by the way, is currently 3 to 1. Chinese families are getting bigger with second children, but there was 2.5, now it's 3.0. So people are saying, well, there's 20,000 cases pending, times 3, that's 60,000, times 10 a year, so it's a 6-year wait. That is not accurate.
所以照大家通常的算法，比如说现在有2万个申请正在审核当中，大家通常计算每个申请大概占有3个，就是一家3口的3个名额，所以现在需要6万个名额，但是每年只有1万个名额，所以排期是6年。但是就这个拒签率来看的话，这个6年的排期计算方法其实是不准确的。
If there's 20,000 petitions pending at IPO and a quarter of them are denied, we automatically down to 15,000.
所以就算现在有2万个申请在审核当中，拒签率大概是1/4这样子的话，大家可以再重新计算一下到底需要多少个名额。
And we multiply that by 3, we get 45,000. So some people might say 4.5 years.
所以现在计算出来大概是需要45000个名额，如果每年1万个名额的话，大概就是4年半左右的排期时间。
What I don't know is where they put withdrawals, because I know that a lot of people get very bad RFEs. They withdraw and go from one project to the other. I think that the dropout rate is not 23%, but maybe as high as 30%.
所以，刚刚我们看到的还只是那个拒签率的是23%，但是我们还没有计算中途撤案的一些申请人，因为有的人可能拿到一个很严重的补件信，或者是有的人想要换项目，他们中途就把526给撤回来了。如果再加上这一部分，那实际上可能这个没有完成526的这个百分率，大概可能应该超过25%，甚至达到30%。
So if only 2/3 of the pending petitions get approved, or even 70% of the pending petitions approved, that produces a wait line of about 4 years.
所以如果只有2/3的申请被批准，或者是70%的申请被批准的话，那么我们的排期就只有4年。
So I'm ready to challenge people who say 8 to 10 years.
所以我们不同意那些计算出来排期会达到8到10年的那些说法。
This, of course, is based on the new higher denial rate, which comes mainly from source of funds, but also from projects.
大家看到这个拒签率呢，不只是因为资金来源的问题，当然还有因为项目的问题，526申请被拒的。
And of course, I'm not even talking about projects like JPEAK, where there may be dozens and dozens, maybe hundreds of cases, which may or may not get approved.
所以比如说像 JPEAK 就是 Vermont 的那个滑雪场的项目，如果它那个类似这种大型项目如果被拒的话，那么就是大批的申请无法完成526的一个申请过程。
So I wanted to switch topics quickly and give you a little bit of information. This is fiscal 2015. There's nothing new here. This shows the number of cases that were filed in 2015. There's China with 83%, Vietnam in second place with 3%, Taiwan third place, 1.5%, South Korea fourth place, 1.2%, India at 1%, and the rest of the countries all just a handful of cases. So basically what you see there is 3 or 4 countries taking most of the visas, and then the rest of the world less than 10%. I just put that slide in because I want to show you the numbers for 2016, which you have not seen before unless you came to my presentation in Washington at IAUSA. So here we go. Now, these are brand new numbers. And what that shows you is so far this year, the State Department has issued, this is as of the end of March, 5,217 visas. The total number will be 9,960. We're just going to be a few short of 10,000 for this year. So there's only another 4,200 visas left for this year. Interestingly, USCIS filings were 730, but that's just for 6 months. So actually, the total number of adjustments filed in the US went up to 1,500, close to 1,500, which is 50% higher than last year. So adjustment of status is much higher, and I'm going to explain why.
大家现在看到的是最新的一个数据，也是我们就是上个礼拜在华盛顿举行的投资美国那个峰会上面我们公布的一个数据。大家可以看到，在2015年财年，一共发出的签证数量比1万个稍微少一点，所以就这个趋势来看的话，今年可能就还剩4000个左右的那个签证名额。但是大家可以看到，移民局发出的签证数量，也就是在美国境内调整身份的那些人的人数增加了很多，大概增加了1半。我们接下去会跟大家解释为什么会出现这种状况。
It's not on this PowerPoint. This shows the total number of petitions filed in every category. The number of cases pending at the end of the year at the National Visa Center as of November was about 17,000. That's November last year. Obviously, this number has to be added to the number of cases approved by the IPO to give you the total waiting line. What this does not include is what I call attrition. Some cases are denied. Some cases are abandoned. Some cases are not completed. And so we add the total number of approved petitions, 526s from the IPO, to the number of cases pending at the National Visa Center, and that will give us the total waiting line.
大家现在看到的是职业移民各个类别的所发出的签证数量的一个分开的一个统计。大家可以看到，在2015年11月呢 ，EB-5 这个它有大概17000个签证需要发出。这个数字呢，再加上IPO 就是审核526的那个部门他们的批准数量。从这2个数字，我们才能准确的算出 EB-5 的排期到底应该是多久。
What's not included here, and there's actually a slide that was omitted. For the first 6 months of this year, China continued to be 80% of the total number of filings. So of the cases that were visas that were issued, 5,270. 80% were Chinese, so that's down from 83. And in second place is South Korea at 2.9%. Those of you trying to follow cannot follow because I don't have these up, but it's very, very interesting. Last year we had China, Vietnam, Taiwan, South Korea, India. The new numbers are, or the new statistics are, China's down to 80%. Vietnam is not in the top 5. Vietnam has dropped below 1%. So last year was an aberration. Number 4, South Korea moved up from 1.2% up to about 3%. And in 5th place, which is not even featured here, is Venezuela with about 55 visas issued so far this year. So again, we see China dominating the program. The other trend that we see, which is not reflected in these numbers, is that direct EB-5 increased by about 200%. So there was a big thrust of direct 500,000. So let's call that people opening up restaurants in targeted employment areas, 500,000, 10 full-time employees. However, regional centers continue to dominate the entire industry, but we do see a substantial increase in TEA cases filed, and TEA direct cases for 500,000. There were zero, repeat, zero $1 million EB-5 cases filed in the direct arena, zero. So bottom line is the activity continues to be in the area of 500,000 regional center targeted employment cases. That was just some general information that I thought I would share with you. Industry trends, China dropping down to 80%, but no one country coming up very strongly other than Venezuela reappearing in the top 5 countries.
Okay, can you go back to that slide?
Yeah.
OK， 大家现在看到的是2015年的各个国家的数据，但是我们现在有今年就是2016年的前2个季度的数据。这边显示的是去年中国是83%，但是我们现在目前最新的数据显示中国的比例已经降到80%，然后第2名已经不再是越南，而是韩国，韩国的比例大概是2.9%，然后越南已经不在前5名了，应该现在新的第5名是委内瑞拉，他们在今年拿到了大概50个签证的名额，所以现在还有一个业内的趋势呢是，直投的数量开始增加，比去年同期大概增加了1倍，所以直投呢大概就是大部分也是在高失业率区的50万美金的投资，就比如说是餐馆之类的。然后区域中心项目呢，当然是继续占领行业的主导。区域中心的50万投资现在还是主导。我们几乎没有看到100万的直投的项目。
So some people who tell you that the Chinese EB-5 waiting line is 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and 6 years, really need to look at this chart, because there is the actual dates published from the visa bulletin. You see that the waiting line first appeared in May 2015, and that was a 2-year waiting line.
就是现在说排期，大家在猜是3年还是4年、5年、6年的，应该从这一个，应该根据签证公告版这个来看到一个准确的数字。我们可以看到签证公告版呢，就是让大家知道实际上是从哪一天开始有排期的，然后排期是多久。大家可以看到第一次出现排期是在2015年的5月。
And let's fast forward it to May 2016, and the waiting line, which is for next month, is February 8, 2014, which is 26 to 27 months.
大家现在看到最近的公布的公告版呢，它就是下个月的截止日期，也就是2016年5月的截止日期为2014年2月8号，所以现在看来排期是26到27个月。
Charlie Oppenheim also gave us the visa bulletin for next month, June 2016, so the preliminary date will be February 15, 2014. So we'll move forward by 1 week to February 15, 2014 in the month of June 2016, going up to 27, 28 months.
我们从国家签证中心得到最新的数据，也就是2016年6月的截止日期，应该在2014年2月15日，也就是说，还是按照每个月1周这样的速度在往前移。
You will notice I've never used the word retrogression, and the reason is that these numbers have never retrogressed. They have always either stayed the same or moved forward.
还想纠正大家常常提到的一个概念，也就是排期倒退。其实从这个表上看来的话，排期一直是在往前移动的，就算移动的速度很慢，也从来没有发生过排期倒退的情况。
But like the stock market, visa waiting lines can go up and they can go down.
但是就像股市一样，这个签证的截止日期确实也有可能往前走，也可能往后退。
So this is the waiting line chart, and it's moved up to 27 months. It'll go up to 28 months. So we briefly spoke about this earlier. Here's the math, understanding how this works. About 20,000 petitions. There were 17,000 as of November last year. Each family member uses about 3. You have a total of somewhere between 3,100 and 3,300 families every year. And about 83% of these have gone to China, which is why we have the waiting line for China.
这个呢，刚刚之前也稍微提到过这个计算的方法，就是说现在等待审理的申请大概有2万个，然后在等待国家签证中心等待的名额大概是17000个，然后平均算来每个家庭需要3个名额，这样算起来的话，平均每年大概可以拿到的绿卡的大概就是3000个家庭，所以大家可以从这个数据算出排期到底有多久。
So moving forward, how long exactly is this waiting line? Conservatively, I'm going at 5.5 years.
这个是具体计算排期的方法，然后我们是用的是我们看来最保守的方法，大概就是5年半的时间。
That's assuming a 25%. That's assuming a 25% denial rate. If it's a withdrawal rate of another 5%, that is too high.
然后这个算法呢是根据拒签率为25%，但是我们没有算中途撤案的，或者是因为各种原因而无法完成526申请过程的人。如果这部分人再占5%的话，那5年半就是排期时间会是在5年半以下了。
So based on this, I don't think a 15-year-old is in trouble with age out. I think 16, 17 can certainly be an issue.
根据这个算法来看的话，15岁和15岁以下的子女应该不会有超龄的危险，但是16岁和17岁可能就要格外小心一些。
So here we have some extremely valuable information that has not been shown before, because this makes some projections moving forward for the rest of the year These are numbers that I have unofficially obtained from the State Department. We see the waiting line going up to 32 months, and then by May 2014, almost sitting at 35, 36 months.
这个信息呢，应该是我们今天讲座最重要的信息，也是从国家签证中心拿到的非官方的最新信息，就是对一个排期和截止日期的一个预测。所以大家可以看到在2014那个预测到是2014年5月递交的申请，可能在2017年4月排期，就那个时候排期等待时间大概是35个月。
Many of you have clients who filed in March or April 2014. They want to know when they're going to get their green card. You want to know if their children are going to age out. You need to know this slide because this is extremely valuable information regarding potential age out situations.
所以如果大家有在2014年3月或4月递交申请的客户，可以就是这个信息对大家是非常重要的，因为你就可以大概的预计到他们的优先日期在什么时候可以到期。
For June 2016, we have already explained that your case must have been filed before February 15, 2014 to get into June 2016. That is factual information I just released.
而且我们刚刚也谈到，就是在下个月2016年6月的时候，这个截止日期会变成2014年2月15日。
So to move from February 15th up to March 2014, we see the waiting line extremely slow because you won't get up till March until November 2016. The visa waiting line is going to move very slowly in the next few months.
在下面几个月呢，大家可以看到这个截止日期往前移动的速度会大大的减慢。也就是说，我们在2014年2月移到2014年3月这个优先日的话，会一直到2016年的11月份才会到达2014年3月，所以大家可以看到这个速度是大大的放慢了。
And we see that when we go out to May 2014, which is only another 2 or 3 months later, that priority date won't come current until April 2017, which is already very, very far down the road.
大家可以看到2014年5月这个优先日期虽然跟前几个月比只有1-2个月的时间，但是排期已经到了2017年的4月。
Now the reason for this is not the 20,000 cases that are pending at the IPO.
这个原因呢，并不是因为在等待审核的那2万个申请。
The reason for this was explained by Julia Harrison, the Deputy Director of the IPO, at the IIUSA presentation last week.
这个原因呢，有 Julia Harrison， 也就是审核526的办公室的副主任，他在投资美国峰会上解释了这个原因。
The bottom line is there were apparently 2,000 cases from 2012 and 13 that were placed out of order, misplaced, lost, I don't know what, but all of those cases were before 2014. They finally found them and adjudicated them. So all the recent cases that are getting approved have got very early priority or filing dates.
Julia 当时解释的原因是因为有大概2000个在2012年和2013年递交的申请，当时因为移民局的就是 EB-5 办公室搬家，然后差一点找不到了，后来他们终于找到了这2000个申请，然后现在他们也就是在申请这部分，在审核这部分的申请。
And then the big question is, when will they get to an October 2014 priority date? And the answer is it won't really happen until well after August 2017. So the government is not prepared to even estimate when that number will come up, but we are looking at somewhere near the third quarter. Actually, that's the fourth. So fiscal Q4 of FY 2017. That is the fourth quarter of the next fiscal year.
所以大家现在要看，在2014年10月递交的申请什么时候能排到呢？国家签证中心给出我们的答案是会在2017年8月以后，但是也是现在来看的话不好预测，但是我们觉得可能就是在2017年第4个季度左右的时间可以排到。
So here are some of the concerns that we have. Consequences. Firstly, the good news is that under the current rule, you have 30 months, 2.5 years to create the jobs from the time of the 526 approval. That no longer works because many of these people will not be able to enter the United States, so you'll have more time to create jobs.
现在大家看到的是排期所导致的一些结果。其中一个比较好的就是说，由于排期呢，那个项目方就有更多的时间可以用于去创造需要产生的工作的数量。
That also raises two other issues because anybody who runs a business knows that you have to change the business to survive. You have to keep going. You have to do material changes, and that can impact the eligibility for EB-5.
其他的问题就是说，大家如果有经商的人可能知道，就是一个商业项目或者公司在经营的过程中，可能有时候会不得不做出一些改变。但是就EB-5这个申请来说的话，如果项目发生了 material change， 也是非常重要性的变化的话，可能会影响526申请人的申请。
And we all know that you cannot take the money out until the 829 is filed. Arguably approved is the safe one, but the problem here is that the money has to sit for a much longer period of time. In the past, 4 or 5 years was normal, but now one can expect with this waiting line that the money may have to sit there for 6 or 7 years or even longer.
还有一个就是，我们通常说的是要在829递交，或者是更安全的说法是829批准以后，投资资金才能拿出来。但是现在来看的话，因为有排期，我们就不能在以往认知的那个4到5年还款的那个机制了，所以现在来看的话，还款的时间可能会达到6到7年以后。
That also raises the question of whether or not, because the money has to allegedly be at risk. So the question is, do you have to redeploy into a new project where you put the money at risk for a second time? Obviously, many investors don't like this. The government has issued an interim memo. We are still waiting for final guidance on this very important issue.
另一个问题就是，我们知道EB-5的投资款必须是始终有一个投资风险在上面，但是如果在排期的这段时间，或者因为排期那个项目事先已经完工了，那这个时候呢，按照我们要承担风险这个要求，项目方可能不得不把这部分资金再投入另一个投资的项目。但是这个第二次投资呢，可能很多投资人是不大喜欢这样的方式的。现在移民局出了一个临时的一个指示，就是关于这个问题他们的一个意见书，但是还没有一个最终的意见书出台。但是我们如果今后看到的话，会再次给大家一些更新的信息。
This obviously raises the issue as well. What if you have a Chinese investor and a non-Chinese investor? Can you pay out the non-Chinese investor? Who gets paid out? Lots of confusing issues arise with this additional wait line.
同时还有的问题就是一个项目有中国的投资人，也有非中国的投资人。那只有中国人有排期的话，能不能对非中国的投资人还款？这也是一个潜在的新的问题。
So the three biggest new problems or issues is the age out of the children. That's an issue which I focused on very heavily.
现在3个主要问题之一呢，第一位就是 小孩子超龄的问题，也是我们一直以来跟大家强调的一个非常重要的问题。
The second big issue which I will deal with is whether somebody under the age of 18 can enter into a contract and invest. So the question is, can a 17-year-old be the principal applicant, or 18-year-old, under 18-year-old, be a principal applicant at the time of investment? Is that a binding subscription agreement if it's signed by a minor?
第二个问题呢，就是未成年人是不是能够有签订投资协议的能力？是不是能够作为主申请人，由未成年人签订的投资协议或者是认购合同，是不是有那个约束力的这样的一个真正的合同效力？
Now, as I've pointed out, the problem with the wait line is not really apparent because it takes 5 months to just do regular processing of the paperwork, so people don't see the waiting line problem. But once that problem emerges, then I believe the government is going to start focusing on some solutions.
现在来看的话，排期的问题还没有很大，因为我们刚才介绍了，就算没有排期，整个政府各个部门的正常工作的时间也大概需要25个月左右。所以现在排期问题慢慢的浮出水面之后，我们相信政府会必须要做出一些解决的办法。
So we've done this a few times. I'm going to do it very quickly. The Child Status Protection Act only allows you to deduct the number of days the petition was pending.
儿童移民身份保护法案这个问题，我们在前几次的讲座里面也提到过，我们现在快速的跟大家过一遍。也就是说，主要一点就是这个保护法案呢，它只是允许你把526审核时间从小孩子的年龄当中减去。
So if you file one day before the child is 21 and it takes 1 year to adjudicate the case, then the child basically gets an additional 1 year of credit for the time the petition was pending.
所以如果是这个526审批时间有1年的时间的话，小孩就获得1年的额外的时间，从他的年龄当中减去。
If the petition was pending for 2 years, then the child gets 2 years of credit.
同样的，如果这个申请花了2年的时间才批准的话，那小孩子的年龄当中可以减去2年。
So all those cases that were filed in 2012 and 2013, I'm sure these are very angry investors.
所以在2012年和2013年递交的那一部分还没有批准的申请，我们相信这个那些申请人现在肯定是非常生气的。
However, if they have children who may age out, they are very lucky because they get to add 2 to 3 years onto the child's age, and the fact that their cases were lost or misplaced is going to be the biggest plus for those age-out children because they can add that time to the waiting line.
但是现在看来呢，如果那个2012年、2013年递交的，但是还没有获得批准，就是被移民局给弄丢了那部分申请，那部分的申请人，如果他们有即将超龄的小孩，这个问题其实对他们来说是一个非常大的好处，因为现在他们的申请已经审核了2到3年的时间，那么他们小孩子的年龄当中可以减去2到3年。
So there's 2 big questions here. Number 1 is the visa number available under the date for filing, what we call Chart B, or must it be available under the final action date, which is Chart A?
所以目前有一个问题就是说，签证有名额是按照 A 表来看，还是按照 B 表来看？
I will quickly jump to these charts. Whoa, am I going the wrong way? Yeah, so there you have Chart A, which is February 2014, and that will move 1 week. That's for May, and then it'll move to February 15. And then you have here Chart B, which is May 2015, that's only 1 year waiting line, almost everybody is current under Chart B, but lots of people are not current or the visa number available under Chart A.
现在 A 表显示的截止日期是2014年2月8号，但是 B 表显示的日期是2015年5月1号。也就是说，按照 B 表来看的话，我们大部分526已经批准的人是签证就是有名额的。
So this chart shows the difference with a case that is pending 10 months versus 16 months. 16 months, of course, is the current waiting line. 10 months is the waiting line we had a year or two ago. The difference under this slide and calculation is that with the 10 months, the child ages out. With the 16 month, actually the child is protected, assuming the case is not too far backlogged. So this is just an illustration of how the case being pending is beneficial to the applicant.
这个就是2个例子给大家解释为什么说526审核时间越长，其实对小孩子那个不超龄越有好处呢。就是说，如果这个526审核的时间是10个月，你只能从小孩的年龄当中减去10个月。如果是审核时间是16个月，那你减去的时间就更多，所以小孩子就更容易被保护住。
Now, for those of you who are practicing immigration lawyers or actively involved, this slide is extremely important.
对于移民律师或者是移民界专业的人士来说呢，这一页信息也是非常重要的。
On March 16 of this year, the government revised the Foreign Affairs Manual or State Department regulations.
今年2月16 2016年3月的时候呢，颁布了一个新的法律，就是关于这个寻求获得的这个要求。
The Form DS-230, which could be used to seek to acquire status up until March 16, is no longer available.
以前我们用到的 DS-230 的表格呢，从现在看来，在2016年3月开始就不能再用了。
You have to file the Form DS-260 and pay the fee bill in order to seek to acquire status in order to lock in the child's age.
所以按照现在的规定来看，必须要递交DS-260和递交那个付签证费，才能达到寻求获得，也就是锁住小孩子年龄的要求。
So it is absolutely critical to get the Form DS-260, which is the electronic form, and if the child is not on the fee bill, then it's very difficult to seek to acquire status because you can't file the Form DS-230 anymore.
所以非常重要的就是说，大家现在拿到那个签证费收费单，应该马上递交。然后 DS-260是一个电子表格，有时候它你必须要递交那个签证费以后才能递交 DS-260，所以在签证费的缴费通知单上如果没有小孩子的名字，这个会是一个非常大的问题。
So I have already explained that under this Chart A, many people will not be current and cannot file an adjustment of status in the US using Chart A.
所以现在按照 Chart 表 A 的这个截止日期来看的话，很大一部分人他们的排期还没有到，所以就是说这部分人也是不能通过递交485调整身份的。
But using Chart B, almost everybody with an approval is going to have a current priority date.
如果根据表 B 的话，很多人就是符合那个排期到达的要求，就是可以递交485申请。
1 week after the State Department publishes these numbers on usually the 8th or 9th of the month, so that's the 15th or 16th of the month, USCIS will advise us whether we can use Chart B to file adjustment.
每一个月当那个国务院公布这个签证公告版以后，大概1周左右的时间，也就是每个月的中旬，移民局会再次通知我们在本月或者我们在下月是不是开放表 B。
So for this year, the date that I need to put in my calendar is about August 20th to find out if I will be able, scratch that, that is September 20th. The important date to put in your calendar, September 20th, to find out if you will be able to file adjustment of status in October of Chart B.
所以在今年的2016年9月中旬的这个时间，大家要非常注意关注这个移民局的信息，就是我们是不是在2016年10月还能看到 B 表再次开放。
The question then will be whether you can use Chart A, this is Chart A, scratch that, whether you can use Chart B to freeze the child's age if you file an adjustment.
现在关键的问题就是说，你能不能根据 B 表来递交的485来锁住小孩子的年纪。
The State Department in their March 16, 2016 regulations seems to say that you can only use Chart A to freeze the child's age when filing an adjustment.
国务院呢在2016年发出的公告好像是在说我们目前还是只能用 A 表来锁住小孩子的年纪。
So I am going to talk very extensively about filing for adjustments, and hopefully in October of this year we will be able to file adjustment for some of our clients.
因为我们希望今年在2016年10月的时候可以帮我们的客户递交I-485的这个申请，也就是说我们希望在10月的时候它能开放 B 表，所以我们现在跟大家讲一下递交485的一些好处。
If the government allows us to file in October and November for people who are in the United States in lawful status, about 3 months after they file, they will get the red card, which is the travel permit and work permit, which is almost the same as the green card, maybe better than the green card, except you have to renew it every year.
如果今年政府同意我们按照就是今年的10月、11月的时候，如果他们重新开放 B 表的话，那我们就可以帮那个 B 表截止日期之前递交的，并且我要通过批准的申请人递交。如果他们在美国有合法身份的话，可以为他们递交 I-485，就是拿到红卡。红卡是递交了 I-485之后，大概3个月的时间可以拿到。从效率上来看呢，红卡是一个工作卡和旅行卡的2合1，这个用处来说的话，跟绿卡就是几乎是一样的了。甚至更好的是，它没有税的问题，也没有在美国境内的居住要求。它不好的地方呢，就是每年要续签一次。
So if USCIS allows us to file 485 in October of this year, it will be a wonderful solution for those people who are eligible, because they can wait 2-3 years. Who cares? As long as they have the work permit and the travel permit, they don't even need a green card. They don't necessarily have tax issues that come up with the green card.
所以如果我们在今年的10月、11月可以递交红卡的申请的话，那么对于排期来说就是一个非常好的解决方案。因为就是你可以在拿到红卡之后再排期2-3年，但是在此期间呢，你可以在美国工作和旅游，这个跟绿卡的效率来说没有什么区别，而且没有这个居民税收的问题。
So you see the man with the red card is smiling, and he's smiling because he has a work permit and a travel permit, and the 35 to 40 cases that we filed were also smiling when they got their red cards.
所以大家看到这个页面上是一个红卡的样本，就是它是一个长成这个样子的一个卡。我们在去年10月和11月期间呢，递交了大概35到40个申请。这些申请人呢，目前排期还没有到，但是他们已经凭着红卡可以在美国给任何雇主工作，以及可以自由的出入境美国。
So I've already mentioned that this is a one-year work permit, can be renewed every year.
刚刚提到的红卡是要每年都一直更新的，但是可以一直更新到你拿到真正的绿卡为止。
While there's no guarantee that will protect the children, filing an adjustment in the US is probably the best thing that you can do for age-out children.
虽然不保证那个递交485，也就是红卡申请可以冻结子女的年纪，但是我们希望可以通过这种方式获取一定的一些好处。
If immigration allowed us to file adjustments of all of the Chart Bs, this would provide complete relief for and remove the entire Chinese waiting line problem, because if people can get a temporary work permit and travel permit while they're waiting for their number to come up, they have no problem. So this Chart B adjustment filing is a 99% complete solution to the Chinese waiting line. Everybody's talking about this big problem. There is a solution. Simply allow people to file adjustments of Chart B and you've solved the whole problem.
所以虽然大家现在目前大家都知道这个排期问题非常严重，但是看来如果我们在今年10月、11月可以递交红卡申请的话，那么对于排期来说是一个非常好的解决的办法。
Unfortunately, filing for adjustments not so simple, so maybe we haven't solved the whole problem, but at least until Congress can deal with this problem next year, we provide a very complete solution for most of the people until Congress can fix this problem next year.
虽然拿到红卡不等于拿到绿卡，然后红卡对于这个排期问题也不是治根的一个解决办法，但是我们可以看到这个方法是在我们看到政府做出对EB-5名额调整或者是真正解决排期问题之前，这个方法应该是一个最好的缓解排期的一个临时的方案。
I'm absolutely confident that whether it's President Clinton or President Trump, that either of them, both of them, will address immigration when they come into office next year.
我们非常有信心的是，等明年新的总统上台，不管是哪个党的候选人成为总统，他们都会开始一些移民的改革。
So I've explained that what one needs to do is plan ahead in terms of dealing with this waiting line issue.
刚才已经提到了，就是对于中国的投资人，他们需要怎么做？最重要的一点就是一定要提前计划。
The best visa to have is the H professional work visa or the L company transfer visa.
最好的非移民签证呢，就是H 签证，也就是工作签证，以及 L 签证，跨国公司高管签证。
For 15-year-olds, I don't think there's an issue. I think that if you have a 15-year-old at the time of filing, basically they have 6 years plus the 1 year that it's going to take to adjudicate the case. I think 15-year-olds are relatively safe at this point because they basically have 7 years to complete the process, and I do not see a 7-year waiting line at the present time.
总的来说，15岁以下的申请人目前应该是没有超龄的问题的，因为15岁的小孩他们有6年的时间才满21岁，再加上526审核的时间就是大概1年左右，所以他有7年的时间才超龄。目前来看，这个排期达不到7年。
18-year-olds just file as the applicant. 17-year-olds a little bit tricky. I think it might be worth waiting until they turn 18.
17岁的问题呢，就是可能比较冒险一些，所以最安全的方法是等17岁的子女满18岁以后作为主申请人申请。
I want to also address this issue of preconceived intent. If you come on a tourist visa and you file to change status within 30 days, that is presumed to be a misrepresentation upon entry.
这里顺便跟大家说一下，就是移民倾向的问题。例如，申请人拿着旅游签证 B 类签证进入美国，然后在30天之内转成其他类型的签证，或者是递交了调整身份的申请，可能会被视为隐瞒了移民倾向的问题。
Again, I point out the waiting line is only for people who are born in mainland China. If your spouse is born in Hong Kong or Macau or France or any other country, then the Chinese waiting line does not apply.
排期呢只有中国出生的申请人才有排期的问题。如果主申请人的配偶是在香港、澳门、台湾或者是其他国家出生的，那么主申请人也可以避免中国人的排期，可以用配偶的出生帝国来避免排期，在526批准之后马上可以拿到绿卡。
So I want to talk a little bit about some of the visa options. The E1 and the E2 visas are not available for Chinese citizens. They are for Taiwanese. So you would first have to get the passport of a treaty country, such as Grenada, for example, and then you could apply for E1, E2. That's an investment visa of about 100,000.
E1 E2 签证是美国协议国的投资签证。目前中国大陆出生的人是不符合这一类的，台湾人是可以符合的。中国人可以拿到 E1 E2 签证的方法是他需要先拿到其他国的护照，比如说格林纳达或者加拿大或者跟美国有协议的国家的护照，他就可以通过 E1 E2来做一个投资的签证。
I also want to mention the O1 visa for people of extraordinary ability. If you have a contract to do work and you are extraordinary in your field, that is another way to get a work visa for up to 3 years that can also be extended almost indefinitely.
O1 签证呢是杰出人才的签证，也就是说，如果你在你自己的领域有一个非常杰出的成就，然后在美国有人请你去工作的话，这样你就可以申请一个 O1 签证。O1 签证也是可以无限期的延长的。
For people who, I'm sorry we haven't translated this, but for people who are planning to come to the United States to study on a student visa, I want to talk briefly about President Obama's February 2016 STEM extension.
对于拿学生签证的学生来说，我们想在这里稍微详细的讲一下，在2016年2月奥巴马总统给出的我们理科生的一个实习签证的延长。
So every student can apply for OPT. That's a 12-month work permit extension. They have to apply 90 days before graduation, not more than 60 days after graduation, completion of studies, and they get a 1-year work permit.
通常我们知道拿 OPT 也就是毕业之后的一个实习签证，就是你在完成学业以后，毕业前的90天和毕业后的60天这个期间呢，可以申请 OPT。通常 OPT 是1年。
If they are STEM, science, technology, engineering, or mathematics, under certain new circumstances, they can get a 2-year extension, so it's a total of 3 years of STEM OPT.
对于理科生来说呢，有可能可以在1年的基础上再延长2年，也就是总共有3年的实习签证。
And then if they go back and do a master's degree, which could be 1 or 2 years, they get a second 3-year STEM extension for a total of 6 years of STEM work authorization after they have completed their studies.
如果学理科的本科生再继续在 OPT 结束之后再继续读一个硕士的学位的话，那硕士毕业以后他又会拿到3年的 OPT 机会，所以就是一共有6年的在美国的实习签证。
My point in including this slide is to show that a student can get 6 years plus the time they're studying, so maybe 10, 11 years, half with student status, half with work status. That's plenty of time to process an EB-5 case.
所以说就理科生来说的话，他们有至少6年的实习签证时间，再加上他们在美国学习的时间，可能加起来大概10年、11年左右，再加上他们后面可以拿工作签证的时间，也就是说，对于这一类学生来说，他们有非常足够的时间来等待 EB-5的排期。
There's a list, www.ice.gov/CVIS. That's a list of the current STEM extensions, but they are only allowed 150 days of unemployment or out of status during that period.
大家看到这个网站呢，就是介绍这个理科的 OPT、STEM OPT 的一些信息。但是有一点就是说，你如果要拿这个 OPT， 你有150天的时间来找工作，也就是说有150天，总共算来在150天当中，你没有工作的时间不能超过这个天数。
There's the address of my customer service specialist, Mary Ma, mma@wolfsdorf.com. You can email me in Chinese, and we will take a few questions right now. But the point that I am trying to make is that we presently have a 2-year waiting line. It's going to go to 3 years very soon. The issue that you have to deal with is the child age out, and the issue you have to deal with is to plan ahead to make sure that you have sufficient time in the US on a non-immigrant visa. I have also mentioned that there are some solutions right now, such as the possibility of Chart B opening up in October, and my sincere belief that President Clinton or President Trump will tackle comprehensive immigration reform and improve this problem we have before it gets very bad.
所以对今天的讲座先做一个总结，就是说我们看到的排期最主要的问题就是子女超龄的问题，所以建议大家是要未雨绸缪，提前计划，比如说先要看你，比如可以在美国读书，或者是通过工作或者其他方式，可以在你拿到 EB-5的绿卡排期之前有足够的签证可以帮助你留在美国。然后就是我们可以看到的解决方式，第一个就是可能在今年的10月、11月可以根据 B 表来调整身份。另外呢，我们相信在新的总统上台以后，会解决这个 EB-5排期的问题，会对移民法做出一些改革。
Well, I only see one question so far. We have almost 100 people still online, so thank you very much. Let me take this first question. And this question, if the EB-5 project is denied after the EB-5 investor has filed 526, so it's basically a project denial, what happens to the investor? Can he keep the priority date? And the answer is no. This is a big problem because in the old days, if there was a problem, you just withdraw, refile. The problem with withdrawing right now, if there's a problem with the project, means you lose your place in line and the child can age out. This is one of the terrible things about the waiting line, is that refiling does not give you the old priority date. The only way to keep the old priority date is if you have a previous 526 approval or any other employment category approval. So it could be approval under first, second, third, fourth, or fifth. If you have an approved third preference application, perm application from 10 years ago, and you now file EB-5, you can keep your place in the waiting line, but otherwise not.
我们看到第一个问题，他是问说，如果 EB-5项目被拒，就是526被拒，那个申请人能不能保留他的第一个申请的优先日期？目前我们的回答是不能，就是如果就算你比如说 526被拒，或者是把526撤回了，你再重新递交526，这个方法是不能保留你的优先日期的。能保留优先日期唯一的方法就是说，你有一个526的批准，或者是你有一个 EB 类，就是职业移民类任何一类的批准，比如说 EB1、EB2、EB3、EB4，你如果之前有一个批准的话，你有可能可以保留你之前那个批准的优先日期来用作 EB5 的申请。
The second question we have is about OPT. How many OPT applications can people apply for? The answer is one at every level. So you get one OPT at your graduate level, at the undergraduate level, you get another one at the graduate level. So you can get 1 year of regular OPT for a bachelor's, 1 more year for a master's, but if you are STEM, you can get a 2-year extension at the bachelor's level and another 2-year extension at the master's level for a total of 6 years of OPT if you are in the correct field.
第二个问题是，一个学生能申请几次 OPT？我们的回答是每一个学位，就是不同程度的学位可以申请一次。比如说你本科毕业可以申请一次，硕士毕业可以再申请一次。如果是非 STEM 专业的呢，每一次 OPT 是1年；如果是 STEM 专业的话，每一个 OPT 1年以后再可以延长2年。也就是说，如果本科和硕士都是STEM 专业的话，一共有6年的 OPT 时间。
I do apologize. This presentation is relatively boring, dealing with numbers, statistics, but the point that I'm making is there are solutions even now for the current situation, and I do believe that with 20,000 cases pending, that's $10 billion at stake. There will be pressure on Congress to fix this problem. So I'm confident that we're going to have a fairly difficult year for EB-5 the current year, but that next year will get better.
今天的演讲呢可能会比较枯燥一点，因为我们都是在讲数字，但是我们想跟大家强调的是，就算现在排期看来很糟糕，但是我们相信是有解决的方法的。其中一个原因就是因为现在有2万个申请，代表着100亿美金的投资款，这个足以给国会一定的压力来寻求好的解决办法。今年呢可能是EB-5行业当中比较困难、比较进展缓慢的一年，但是我们相信明年的情况会大大的好转。
So we have a question here, which is, can a 16-year-old be the principal applicant on an EB-5? And the answer is, it's not yet clear. So, just repeat that.
我们有一个问题是问16岁的未成年人是否可以作为EB-5的主申请人？我们的回答是现在还非常的不明确。
The general rule is that if you are under 18, the contract is voidable at the instance of the minor when they turn 18.
一般的规定呢是来说，就是如果是未成年人签订的这个合同是可以撤销的。
If the minor can void the contract when they turn 18, then the money is not irrevocably committed, and therefore it may not meet the requirement to be sustained.
所以如果一个未成年人他签了一个合同，做了投资，但是实际上这个合同是可以在他18岁之后撤销的，那么可能这个就有一个问题，就是不满足我们EB-5法律上的那个投资必须是非不可撤销的，这样投给项目方，而且就是说它这个风险问题可能就达不到法律的要求。
One option is for the 16-year-old to apply to the court for emancipation.
有一个解决方法是让这个未成年人去向美国的法院申请脱离监护人的管辖。
And the second is there is a procedure under UTMA, Uniform Transfer to Minors Act, which allows the money to be that of the minor and actually binding on both the minor and the parent. So there may be an option available under UTMA, UTMA, in terms of a 16-year-old being the principal. Several regional centers are working on this right now, and I believe that there are some operational as of the present time.
第二个解决的办法呢，是目前有一些区域中心在采用的一个，或者是说在试着去采用的一个方法，叫做未成年人受赠法 （Uniform Transfers to Minors Act）， 简称为 UTMA。这个法律呢，它就是允许未成年人从监护人那儿获得一些赠与。根据这个法案呢，赠与人或者是那个监护人可以管理那个未成年人的财产，直到他们达到一定的年龄。
The second point worth noting is that when you file the 485, the USCIS regards any person over the age of 14 as an adult. So for the purpose of filing the 485, the second stage of the green card, once the child is over 14, they are classified as an adult. I do not see USCIS having a problem with a 16-year-old. Clearly, 16-year-olds can run a business. The question is the contract voidable? Is the money irrevocably committed? And that requires a detailed framework under UTMA or having the court formally emancipate the child, either in China or in the US.
就移民法上来看的话，我们是没有要求一定要18岁以上的人才能做主申请人的，因为就递交485这个申请来说的话，14岁以上的人就可以了，所以移民法上是没有问题的。但是问题现在就是在合同法上，如果是未成年人签订的合同，可能是没有约束力的。所以就像我们刚才提到的两个方法，第一个是向中国或者是美国的法院申请脱离监护人的管辖，让未成年人达到一个类似于成年人的一个自我管辖的一个权利。第二个方法就是那个未成年人受赠法，就是 UTMA 的这个法律的运用。
The next question is explain again what is Chart B. So Chart A is the final action date, which is currently 2.5 years, going to get longer, 3 years. Chart B is the date for filing, and unfortunately we could only use that in October and November last year, but there is a chance that we will be able to use it in October or November of this year, which will provide an excellent solution for many people stuck in the waiting line because the Chart B wait is only 1 year.
现在看到的一个问题是让我们再解释一下A 表和 B 表到底有什么样的区别。A 表呢是一个最终排期的一个表，就是 A 表上的日期目前看来是2年半的这个排期的这个日期，它是决定你是不是现在可以拿到绿卡。B 表呢，它上面的截止日期是比 A 表要快得多，现在是一个2015年5月的这个时间，但是我们目前 B 表是还没有开放的，去年只开放了10月、11月2个月，我们觉得有可能今年的10月、11月的时候 B 表会再次开放。
Somebody asked, does the person have to be in the U.S. to file for 485? Yes, the person has to be in the U.S. in valid status and must not have worked without permission. And you also have the 30-60 day rule that I mentioned briefly. You can't come on Monday and file an adjustment on Tuesday. So it's challenging, it's complicated.
有人问是不是必须要申请人在美国的时候才能递交485，答案是是的。不仅是你要在美国，而且你要必须有合法的签证在美国。比如说你如果拿着旅游签证进来，1周之后就递交了485，这样是不行的。还有就是说你如果递交485的话，你必须不能有之前在美国非法工作的记录。
We have 4 more questions in Chinese. I'll let Vivian read them and answer them. I'm sorry, I won't take any more questions, but if you have more questions, just email to Mary Ma, M-Ma, at my last name, Wolfsdorf. We'd be happy to answer them. There's a question, what is the chance that it will be increased to 800,000? You know, 3 times last year, I said it was going up to 800,000, and it did not. So I'm nervous to predict again, but my personal view is that minimum investment amount is absolutely going to go up in the next few months, but I'm scared to say it in public because 3 times I was wrong last year.
有人问到说会不会就是涨价到80万这个几率会有多大？因为我们去年呢，大家都认为会涨价，但是最终却没有涨价。所以我们在此就不再做出什么时候就是准确的时间会涨价这个预测了。但是我们相信在今年的就可能很快的时间之内，确实是会涨价的。
Vivian, do you want to lead off with the Chinese questions?
He's saying if I entered with a B visa, after 60 days, can I file adjustment?
So the rule is you must not intend to adjust when you come in. So you cannot come in with a plan to adjust. So last year, for example, they only announced that you could adjust on September 20th. And I had clients in the US who came to settle their children into school. And my view was we could file within 2 or 3 weeks because they clearly did not have the plan to adjust. They didn't even know they were eligible until I called them and told them. So that's a situation where I file within about 30 days. Generally speaking, it's very smart to wait at least 30 days. And the question is, will you have 60 days? What if they don't open for November? So if you wait more than 30 days and then on October the 20th you find out you can't file in November, then you're in a bit of a rush situation. You have to file in the last few days of October. So generally you should not file within 60 days and should not have the intent to file at the time you enter, unless you are on an H visa or L visa or possibly an O visa, which are dual intent or partial dual intent visas.
OK， 有一个问题是说，拿着旅游签证入境60天后，是否可以递交 I-485来调整身份？这个入境的时间其实不是最关键的，问题是你入境的时候有没有来递交 I-485的打算？例如去年我们之前不知道它会开放 B 表，所以有的客户呢，他其实是拿着签证，就是旅游签证进来，比如说送小孩读书或者是别的旅游的目的，结果他到了美国之后 B 表突然就开放了，所以我们就马上跟客户打电话说我们可以帮你递交485。这个时候客户其实只在美国待了大概2-3周的时间，但是因为我们相信客户当时进来的时候并没有来美国调整身份这个意图，因为当时并不知道 B 表存在，所以他们递交 I-485是没有问题的。当然现在也已经拿到了红卡，虽然他们的排期还没有到。所以问题就是说你如果如果这个 B 表开放了，你才拿着这个旅游签证进来的话，可能不管你就算待30天可能待60天会稍微好一点，但是也是有一定风险的，所以最好就是拿着 HL 或者 O 签证的人可以在美国调整这个你递交 I-485调整身份。
We're out of time for today, but again, I hope you'll dial into our next webinar in 2 or 3 weeks. Off to China again in May for a big conference in Shanghai. If you want to meet with us or talk with us, please feel free to email our client relations specialist, Mary Ma. Thank you to Attorney Vivian Zhu for translating, and please spread the news. It's not so bad. I think some people have spread too much bad news. We continue to have a viable EB-5 program. Certainly, there are challenges with the wait line. There are challenges with some of the projects, but this continues to be a good program for the majority of investors. The key is you need to plan ahead. So on that note, thank you very much, Vivian. The final note, and I wish you all a good night.
我们在下个月月初呢，会再次去上海参加一些活动。如果大家有机会或者想跟我们见面的话，可以过来跟我们见面或者跟我们联系。总的说来呢，我们 觉得EB-5现在目前的情况不像很多人说的那么糟，这现在还是一个可行的一个移民的一个渠道，也是一个可行的一个移民的计划。所以关键就是说，我们告诉大家的就是一定要提前的计划，然后选择一个好的项目。我们今天的讲座就到这里，祝大家晚安。